Next up, we have Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the defensive end edge rusher out of Kansas State, who is such a fascinating evaluation and, someone that I've came back to multiple times through this process, and I've raised his grade every single time, right? To the point that even right now I'm sitting here talking into a microphone 2 days before the NFL draft, and I'm questioning if I'm still too low on him. So we'll cross that road when we get there towards the end of the video, but there's a couple reasons why, and I guess we'll just start laying them out now. First and foremost, he was so misused at Kansas State. They used him, I don't want to say the majority of reps by any means, but let me pull up a number here. I'll pull this up real quick on the fly. So Felix was being played, and this is what I'm talking about. He's being played inside the tackle and head up on the tackle when that's never how he'll be used in the NFL. Never once. You see it on the screen. 255 pounds. Why is that guy playing a 3-tech? Why is that guy playing a 4-eye? Right? That's never how you want to use him. And here we go. We got some numbers. So this past season in B gap alone, so as a 3-tech, 72 snaps. On tackle, 140 snaps. So as a 4 or a 4-eye. Again, positions that he should never be playing. Alignments that, unless it's a 3rd and long and you're putting out some crazy speed package where you want to kick him inside as like a dime pass rusher, as a dime defensive tackle, never should be playing it. And he had 450 reps outside the tackle as either a stand-up or a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end. So you do some quick math there. That is 662 reps on the year, let's say. You shouldn't have 214 of them at a position you're not going to play. At an alignment you should never be seen at. Because inside, it's not very good, right? It's not very impressive. On the edge, the flashes it feels like we get, the glimpses that Kansas State is willing to give us, at times are first-round tape. And very well, perhaps should be first-round tape, right? So, maybe putting the cart before the horse there, but just as far as why the evaluation is tough, it's because you're watching a game and a third of the game is at a position he'll never play. And you see those reps where he looks worse than he actually is because he's being asked to do something that he should never be doing, right? Makes no sense. Another reason the evaluation is tough, right? We're just rattling through them here. Age, 21 years old. So it's like, this is a guy where you look at some of his negatives, and it's like, well, that could be taught, that could be taught, that could be taught, that could be taught. And then you're talking yourself into, maybe this guy should be a top 15 pick, right? Like, he's got better athleticism than a lot of these other edge rushers that we have above him. Maybe he's not quite as advanced technically as those guys, but he's got time on him. Even Tyree Wilson, whatever he's going to be, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th pick in the draft, wherever you want to put him. Hopefully he goes to Detroit, but as a Lions fan. But Felix has 2 years on him. 2 years and a couple months, actually. January to May, I believe it is. January of 2002 to May of 2000. So it's just interesting, right? Because I'm not someone who really looks at potential in your grade, because I don't like to assume that you're going to learn stuff. But I think as he gets more reps at the position, it's only going to look better. And you put that with the size. He didn't test the combine at the pro day, so we don't have a true measure on some of the athletic intangibles. But we'll kind of pass through these stats really quick and get to the film. But as a 19 and 20-year-old to have 19 and a half sacks over 2 years, because he just turned 21, I mean, that's radical. That is radical and incredibly impressive. So we'll get into the film. I know I'm talking here more than I'd like. Explosiveness and quickness, lightning rod, right? You look at someone who, whether it's a twist or, 6 celebration too, but whether it's a twist, whether it's a straight up speed rush, which we don't see enough of, right? So much of it is just pounding his head into B gap. But when they do give him a rep on the edge, there's just a burst that tackles struggle with, even though they know it's coming, right? You can't tell me that tackle didn't know that Felix was going to burst into and penetrate B gap there, and it didn't look necessarily pretty, but he put 2 points on the board, right? Because he's just that quick and that twitchy of an athlete. As far as the ability to set the edge and anchor, now this is interesting because this is a category that I initially thought, was maybe a little bit lower than where I have it now, but as I'm watching him and I'm looking at purely these reps on the edge, I'm starting to think that maybe the experience on the inside, where he maybe doesn't look as good, maybe it's helping him on the edge, right? Because he's used to going up against, at times, these 330-pound guards, put him on the edge against these 300-pound tackles, and it maybe feels easy to him, right? I'm seeing a little bit of that. So I currently have him graded a 10.5 out of 15. And it maybe feels a little bit low, right? That maybe feels like a spot where the grade could go up. Because we start looking at some of these other grades here, flexibility and bend, I mean, there's not much to say. He can dip and rip with some of the best of them, right? Tough to gauge because you don't see it enough, but very solid in that regard, I thought. Can fight through contact very well. That might have been the best aspect of it. I would say it's not even that he's some crazy, Myles Garrett-esque, like, guy who can dip around the edge and just get low. But for how low he's getting, the contact that he's able to withstand was really impressive to me. And that's what gave him a very good grade there. That said, hand usage, I might as well not have graded him. I think a lot of reps. I talked about maybe Isaiah Foskey needs a plan. I mean, Felix needs a planner, right? He needs someone to plan him out for him before he can even do it, it feels like. Because it just felt like he was playing. And I'm looking at those numbers and it's like, man, well, if he's just getting those numbers playing, what could he do? What could he do if you teach him, right? And that's the crazy thing about potential. It can make you do crazy stuff if you're a general manager, right? So for me, again, like I said, that's why I don't incorporate that kind of stuff into my grade. I'm at a 4.5 out of 10 as far as hand usage are concerned, or is concerned, I should say. Because at times, he can stab him into the chest of the O-lineman. He can get good, conversion as far as the speed and burst into power. But as far as hitting some wide variety of moves, you don't really see it. But I'm willing to take that, I think, as a guy who's 21, more so than I am out of Will McDonald, right? If that makes any sense at all, who's, for those who are unfamiliar, an older prospect. As far as the block deconstruction is concerned, I thought he was a little bit better here, right? Just as far as an ability to shed blocks against the run. But again, I need to see a more consistent stab, stack, and shed, right? I need to see him get those hands in through the chest, separate with his hands, right? Bench press them off, and create enough space to find the ball and bring down the running back. Just didn't quite see it enough. And again, maybe that's tainted by the fact that I have so many reps of him against a big old guard, but I just think that was an area where, as a playmaker against the run, I'd like to see some level of improvement. As far as, again, finishing tackling, I thought, there weren't a ton of whiffs and whatnot in that regard. I thought he was rather solid. I gave him a 4.25 out of 5. Didn't have a ton of clips there, but I think you guys saw it throughout the video. It felt like when he was getting around to the QB, he was able to make a play on him and keep him from getting away from him, even with some of these running backs and whatnot. So overall, just a couple of the other categories I didn't touch on and have clips for necessarily. I did give him a 4 out of 5 on leverage. I thought that was rather impressive. Again, I think due to the fact that he's used to needing to anchor against these bigger guys and double teams, I think if he can bring some of that to a full-time role out on the edge, that could really help out and be maybe where that ability to set the edge grade finds itself going up. And lastly, the block recognition I thought was not quite there yet, right? I gave him a 2.25 out of 5. One of the lower grades, especially of sort of the first 3-round guys that I've watched at the DN position. I just thought he was a little bit raw there, right? And maybe it's because he just needs a home, right? He just needs to settle in at a position, He just needs to be able to know every play. That right tackle is going to be my visual key. That tight end is going to be my pressure key, right? I'm going to watch what that guy's doing. I'm going to feel what that guy's doing. Instead, they're moving him inside. They're moving him outside. They're slanting him inside. They're kicking him out, right? Like, come on, guys. I think Kansas State was trying to get too cute. And it's interesting because on the offensive side of the ball with say, Deuce Vaughn, I love the cuteness, right? It was great. It was awesome. I like Deuce. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't need cuteness when I got a guy like Felix, right? Felix doesn't have some crazy size deficiency. He doesn't have some this or that, right? You need to play him where he belongs. And where he's going to be most productive. I don't feel like we got the chance to see that. So maybe there's a little bit of projection in my grade, but maybe there's not enough, right? That's kind of the quandary we're in here. I'm projecting a little bit. I have him in as an upper second round guy. And in fact, in a draft where I only currently have 16 first rounders, he's actually one of the top 32, albeit I didn't grade every position. So he's a guy that if you told me you took him, 40th overall or 35th overall, or even if you're a really good team, if you're, say, Kansas City at 31 and you just take him right there to replace Frank Clark or something, you're going to hit a home run. Guarantee it. Right? They will churn him out and make him into an absolute animal off the edge. But if you're one of these other teams and you're thinking about Felix in the 30s, and if he somehow gets to the 40s or 50s, I really like him, right? I think there's enough there already that you can work with to where he can be productive. Sure, there's going to be some mishaps. He's going to misread some stuff. He's not going to get off blocks enough. He's, sometimes the edge is going to cave in on him, and they're going to bang a power play for a touchdown. Well, I think we can work on that stuff. I think we improve the block rec. I think we give him a home. We let him feel comfortable somewhere, left end, right end, whichever it is, hand in the dirt, let him roam, right? Just let him study a spot, let him learn a spot, and then we get to we get to improve things like the hand usage. We get to improve things like the block deconstruction, right? Maybe that's the next level of it, because the motor's there, the motor's good. The finishing tackling's good, it's there. The explosiveness is certainly there. The bend is there in bunches at times. I think he's got to find a good home on a good team that's going to play to his strengths and try and mask his weaknesses, unlike whatever the heck Kansas State was doing this season. So with that being said, Felix is a guy that right now I have in the upper to mid second round, per my scale. But like I said, in this draft would be a top 32 player for me currently. And that's about all I got for you guys, man. Maybe he should be higher than that. Because, I just filmed a video for BJ Ojulari, and that's something I've wrestled with, right? It's like, well, what is the difference, right? And not what is the difference, because there's clear differences in the way they play, but it's like, well, which one would you rather have? Maybe one's a little bit flashier, one's a little bit better with his hands, and has some of the learned traits down, but then the other one has just some better athleticism, I would say, overall, some better physical upside, and hasn't learned that stuff, right? So yeah, I think right away, maybe a guy like BJ would be more productive, but in the long term, I wouldn't be shocked if we look back at this draft and say Felix was worthy of a first rounder, and frankly, I won't even be shocked if a team like Kansas City takes him in the first round. So with that being said, that's all I have for you guys in this one. I'm mic'd up, now I'm mic'ing out. If you enjoyed, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good old fun YouTube stuff. I keep going for too long on these videos, so I'm gonna cut it short on this one. But Felix, very fun player to watch, very tough player to project. And if you want to see some more tough ones to project, I'm sure I got more videos that you guys haven't seen. I'm mic'd up, now I'm mic'ing out. Peace, guys. See you next time.